Excellent. Well, thanks everyone. Yeah, thanks for taking time to chat about this today. I think it's a good timing. You know, we had time to think on all of this for quite a while. Earlier conversations for maybe like a couple months ago at this point. Yeah, so I sketched out a document, which I'm just going to assume, has everyone actually looked at, or do you want to go over briefly together? Everyone's looked at it. Okay, then we don't need to go through that sort of step by step. But basically wanted to sort of get feedback, suggestions on kind of what put in there. So the idea being that like we want to sort of aim towards and eventually develop a steering council and consider starting a nonprofit. But I think we're still slightly too early stages on both of those. Because if we don't have money coming in and we don't have anybody who's currently like in desperate need of funding, then there's not like a burning need for a nonprofit. Yeah, and then in terms of a steering council, I think that is a good idea. But I think we do need to kind of figure out like what sorts of decisions and like what sort of role it would play before forming it. I think that forming it before we know what it does could end up being just a bit clunky. So yeah, so my suggestion is basically like, do we want to kind of formalize two of the roles we talked about in the previous document? So sort of like a managing director / BDFL and a director of operations. What do folks think of that? And then also I'm sort of like self-volunteering to fill the managing director role. And if anyone has concerns, questions, anything like that, thinks it's a terrible idea, I'm all ears. Yeah, so I don't know, who wants to kick off with whatever thoughts you've had a chance to formulate? So I'll start calling up people.
I like it. I like it. It's short, it's concise, it's easy to read and understandable. So I actually don't have anything to criticize or to change. Yeah, I mean, from I think all the discussions we had, it's now much shorter, and I think it's good for a start. And it could be built up on it later on.
Yeah, I think at this point it's definitely a good idea just to finalize these roles first and then go on with the other parts. I also would like to echo Dom's comment that he wrote in there about having more outlined goals for the project in general, because it's kind of open-ended at this point. And yeah, it is like whoever wants to work on something kind of spearheads that and goes forward. So it'd be really nice to kind of come together and have the big goals for the project for the next, few years. It would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even I think in the short term, in order to be able to tackle the ongoing growing list of issues, is that it would be great if we start planning releases, say 0-15, we're going to tackle these issues because they're all like, do something, and then 16 we're going to do these ones, and so forth, so on. It doesn't mean that we cannot like introduce something new if someone is interested in pushing it right now, but at least it would give us more like a direction, right? Like we're kind of missing direction or like goals, I guess. It's kind of open-ended, as Joe said, so it'd be great, I think, if the director of operations and the managing director would agree on set goals. Yeah.
So what do you mean? Is there a bit less academic and a bit more on production
Software
stability,
like exactly.
half-year cycles or something like this?
Yeah, we don't need to put a hard like times on it, but at least as we know that these issues are priorities, they need to go in next version, and these guys are going to be next versions, so that we have a line that we can follow.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable, because a lot of that right now, I think, like we sort of have a loose collective like understanding of what's coming out next. But even just having those things written down to communicate that out seems like a very reasonable, good step forward.
It will be less stressful for everyone to to see that there's a plan, right? Yeah. And then we'll be able to easily having a steering committee and say, our long-term plans are to get there at some point, and here's all the building blocks we need to put in before we get there. Just makes it clear, right?
Yeah. Thibaut or Doug, do either of you have comments or things you wanted to add to this?
No, not particularly. I think it's, I mean, I like the way you kind of formatted this is, postponing stuff and then kind of taking things on as need basis. And yeah, so I think it's a matter, of just trying to kind of assess what those next steps are at this point. So I don't have any, particular sage advice, really. I don't know, Thibaut, what was your?
Yeah, no, like I agree with Dieter. Like the document was good and like short, and I agree that the position you just mentioned is kind of the minimum that we're already working on. It's just we are officializing that. That's good, and yeah, I like Dom's comment about having a mission statement also is useful. I also actually added a small comment on that in the doc of like, if it's a useful question of asking us of like, how do we see SimPEG in 1 year, in 2 years, 5 years, or even 10 years down the road? What does it look like? And I think that answering that also will also help with Dom's point of like, right now, SimPEG is really move forward based on our academic research, which has give it like a very good kick in, etc. And like we have like very advanced tool in that, but we're all like, it's like but we also lacking some like basic tools that sometimes like block people of like I'm just thinking again, like I'm doing joint inversion with SimPEG, but at the same time somebody else try to plot like a pseudo section of a DC survey, and the result is really not as satisfying as like raised to the in. And in their mind it's like, oh, if it cannot plot it, it cannot invert it, which is not true. But yeah, so like there is really a disbalance in that, and how we accomplish that of like moving away from the only academic driven is like, I think it's a question we're trying to answer right now with Doug and with MyTax and Myra and Dias, but it's maybe something that we will need more thoughts as well.
Yeah, and having, I think, some of these, like, I think to the point of sort of release plans, but also like, I like Dom's suggestion of kind of going in and grouping issues. We sort of have tags right now, but they're not necessarily like, we apply them pretty ad hoc. And so to have a bit of structure around that might also just surface like some of these examples that, if somebody's got half an hour free in an afternoon to knock something out, it's easy to find what those things are. But right now, yeah, it's a bit opaque unless you're sort of really plugged in.
To me, the 1 year, okay, 1 year is very short term, but 2, 5 years, it all depends who's going to be around, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing you guys, Joe and Lindsay are, I guess, more advanced, and probably Thibaut later down the road too. But eventually, you guys are going to have grad students as well, right? And then these guys are probably, it would make sense for your grad students to like take on issues and write more codes and add to SimPEG. So I think we kind of need to line ourselves that way. Is that we're going to line up a lot of work, a backlog of tasks, and then it's to assume that at some point someone else is going to come in and help out and push this further. As long as it's well laid out, it would just be easy to give to someone else.
Yeah, and even for onboarding other groups like Jaja's group, you know, having some things that are very easy for somebody to knock out is also a nice way to kind of just get plugged in and start to contribute. Yeah, so absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask, so are there any, so thinking of Jaja's group and or Yaguas are trying to motivate anybody to kind of contribute, is there any kind of, I don't know, special incentive or acknowledgement or something that's a little bit more of an enticement to really kind of get people onboarded and particular things?
That's a good question. I think what we should do is actually make more use of the website we have right now, is to be able to list contributors. And so have folks be able to have their name on there. They can right now in the like SimPEG repository, but it would be nice if that was actually kind of front and center on the SimPEG website. And I think same thing with kind of like institutional logos and groups, like acknowledging that Mira and Diaz are contributing to the project by allowing folks to put time onto the project. And so giving an acknowledgement in those ways would be, I think, an important step.
Is there, I'm not sure this is a great idea. I was just thinking about the, you know, some kind of, as part of the page, like a set of items that, you know, had been done and contributed by a certain person, and, you know, just so that, you know, for this particular, you know, week on August the 5th, you know, Joe did something, and here's a, you know, a one-line description of what he did, and then it just kind of keeps cycling through, so that, you know, it's just another way of sort of capturing, you know, what has happened and who has done it. And I mean, sometimes things like that can be motivational.
Yeah, I mean, right now it doesn't kind of happen on a weekly basis, but I've been trying to add in every time we do the release notes or everything, I make note of people that have added to it every time. And like specific pull requests and things like that. I do make note of it and put it in there. But it's, I mean, it's not, you know, week by week or anything like that.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking more of something that was continuously updated. You know, just, you know, somebody does something, writes a one-sentence description of what he did. You know, this goes up in a, you know, like a continual feed. There's a picture and there's, you know, what he did. If nobody else does anything, then he's up front and center for a week. But if somebody else does something, he's kind of pushed off. So there's an incentive to try to, you know, keep your picture up there.
Yeah, it's kind of a, you're kind of describing, like, it's almost like a news feed of SimPEG almost. Maybe something on the, like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's almost like a news feed. Like, it's like, oh man, look at this, what this person just added to SimPEG. Or look at what this person just added to SimPEG.
Well, I could see that being motivational. But
yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Could we make better use of like the SimPEG's social media accounts for that kind of thing? Just
yeah, we definitely could, because we do have the Twitter account, which we hardly use. There's also the This Week channel on Slack that we could use. I mean, what we did do in the past, and would be happy to revive this if it's of enough interest, is that folks just posted a screenshot of something and like 3 to 5 bullet points of, I did something cool with SimPEG or SimPEG related this week, and then we just put that in a blog post. Yeah.
Is there something that could be actually attached to, you know, the SimPEG website? So somebody does SimPEG.xyz and...
It is probably, but something we would have to be very clear who's the audience.
Yeah.
Because I think any developer would probably look and go to the commit feed in GitHub to see who is committing and who is what. So then we will have to see how much is the effort to put in and how much is what we gain from it. because as I see it, as it's described, it would be mostly to attract new users or new developers, because I don't see that it would help, let's say, any of us or any of a NumPy contributor or a Jupyter Hub contributor would probably not be attracted by such a feature. It would be more like new master students, new bachelor students, new PhDs, or generally new folks to programming, right?
Yeah, I think that would be a main project. This is something that just is kind of follow up on what Lindsay had said with respect to, getting Jaja's group excited and committing, parsing stuff out to them, and whoever else. It's just, just to do something and have your picture come up and a short description of what you did, and at least it was there momentarily, and then next time you look, you're down the list someplace. But
very important in that is that what Joe said, that he listed in the release notes, because I think for any first-time contributor, it's very exciting to see his own name.
Absolutely.
In the release, yeah.
And that sticks around much longer than a post.
Well, we could do as like a bit of an in-between that I don't think would be too complicated is it's not hard to get a Twitter feed on a website. And so and that could be a very easy way to give shout outs, is that when a new release is out with a contribution from a new contributor, we make sure that their name is mentioned in that tweet, and then that just goes to the website. And then we don't have to manually maintain.
First time contributor, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess Joe doesn't want to see his name 10,000 times on Twitter.
We know Joe contributors.
Then it's also the danger that new first-time contributors are getting flattened under, right? Because other people are
pushing more.
I could see like first-time contributors, pull requests, things like that. Or like when a pull request is merged or something as well.
Sounds good.
And then add it to the list of contributors. Yeah, do we have? I'm not even sure if that's up front, right? The total list of whoever pushed stuff.
Well, the list on the front of the website is basically we encourage people to add themselves to the list. I think that's generally the way that we've been handling that list.
I see. Yeah.
Could we scrape them from the commit, although that only includes code contributors, not others? It's always difficult to not forget anyone, but yeah.
Yeah. We could also, that's also where we can make use potentially of some of the GitHub features of like first-time contributor, please add yourself to the list, those sorts of things. Okay. So maybe, unless folks have other discussion points you want to bring up, what I would suggest next is to talk just a little bit about next steps here, but I'll first pause if there's anything else you want to bring up. Okay. So what I was thinking is then to start making use of the SimPEG community repository to be kind of the place where we track these sorts of decisions, and also where we make suggestions about practices, like Doug's suggestion of making sure we find mechanisms for giving shout outs to new contributors, those sorts of things. So kind of like a meta layer on SimPEG being this community repository. So what I was thinking is basically just kind of write up this governance document as a bit of like, I don't know, a formal-ish document that's a bit of a guide that if we can point folks to if they're new to the community and want to know how decisions are made and those sorts of things, have that there. And then use that as a space to kind of prioritize things like drafting a mission statement, a couple-year plan. And we don't necessarily need to draft them in like GitHub issues, but at least those issues can track Google Docs and things like that where we're working on these sorts of things. But kind of use that as a space to track our own progress on getting some of these other pieces in place that we want to see. So I guess, or first, does anyone have concerns about that? Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess what my asks will be in that sense is like, well, maybe I'll write this up, we'll make it as a pull request, and then probably just ask for like thumbs up edits from folks. We can leave it open for a week or so, and then it's something we can always iterate on, but you know, leave it open so that there's time for input. And in particular, Joe, your input too on your role definition would be very very helpful. So we can get that in sort of as top priority, and then start to think on drafting some of these documents and making some updates to the websites and these sorts of things, and prioritizing what we think needs to be done kind of first order, second order, these sorts of things.
Perfect. And it's going to be just how are you gonna? What kind of document are you gonna put up there?
So I'll just create like I think just a markdown document. Yeah. And then that's something that if we want to build it into a website, that's easy to
parse. Yeah. Makes sense. 3 years ago you created that. Is that right? Initial command.
It's how long we've been thinking about these things.
Is that when we went to Montreal? You started putting it together.
Oh, you know, it could have been.
I think that's 3 years ago, right? Yeah. Roughly.
Montreal was like what, 2019, right?
It's pre-COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Before time started doing strange things.
It's a long time ago. BC, basically.
Before COVID, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. That's all I had in mind for this, unless there's other things you'd like to bring up. But yeah, wanted to get some next steps and put some things in motion. So
I don't know if you have guys have 10-15 minutes. Can we think about a mission statement? Can we just brainstorm like a one or two liner of what is SimPEG?
Yeah.
Can we all agree on what is SimPEG?
That sounds good.
While we have you all here.
I mean, that reminds me also of the question of like, have we resolved who is our public?
Well, who's our public right now? I guess that they would address it, right? Because that's what it is.
Who is our public?
Well, yeah, who's the audience for?
Our audience, yes. Sorry.
Who's the consumer? Who's the producer, right? Of SimPEG. And I would hazard to guess it's probably like 75% academics and then 25% industry at this point.
Maybe.
Like that.
Yeah.
Definitely in terms of commits.
Wish there was some way to figure out like our active users. Like there was some way to figure out like daily active users.
I know.
Yeah, it's not easy. Well, it's like you can look at how many people are on Discourse and how many on the Slack and how many overlaps there is. But it's like the Slack is getting pretty decent. Like on the general channel, we're like close to 400.
Yeah.
366, 76.
But then what are active ones if you go to the stats?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can you know that?
You can look at the stats.
On Discourse or on Slack? Those are both things I can have the power to look at.
Slack. I expect in Swang it's usually about 10%.
Oh, really?
Of the register are active.
Which means that they log in once a week or something?
In the last 30 days or in the last week, something like this, yeah.
Okay.
Where do you look at the...
If you go to the Slack, then you go to the... Although I don't know how much... Now, even in the free one, you see. So you go by SimPEG, you go to the top left symbol, and then administration tools. analytics, tools, analytics, and then it goes to the web browser.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
yeah, okay.
And there you can see who committed most and how many were active and which channels are most active. I don't know how much is the free version. But we
Oh, we
find
can
out
see
an
weekly active.
overview. Yeah.
So we're averaging about 60 active users. Yeah.
So that would be, what you said, 400. So yeah, it would be a bit more than 10%, but 15%.
Yeah, and about just less than half of those,
60.
or like a third, post stuff.
Yeah.
And daily is 30, roughly 30, 25, 30.
Then the most active contributor is GitHub. If you go to the channels, GitHub messages posted 189 is
Yeah.
the bot.
Which way? What are you looking at?
If you go to channels, from overview channels, and then the most active channel is GitHub. So that is all the bot.
Oh shit, are you serious? No, not sure what. Discretize is pretty active.
Yeah.
So for the mission statement ideas, I'm sure folks here have seen the why statement that Rowan, he's the one who led that, but Sagi and myself worked with him on that in 2015, so quite a while ago. I just dropped the link in there. It's probably a bit longer than what a mission statement is, but in a sense, it's a nice document to look back on as kind of some of the original motivation.
Where did you drop it, Lindsay?
Oh, just in the Google Doc.
Ah.
I can put it in chat here too.
That's okay.
Good. Bigger than what a mission statement I think that we want, but is a good good reference.
It reminds me of the discussion we had about the description of inversion, and I think it got stuck, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, read them.
6 years old.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
What has changed?
How long
in
are
6 years?
typical mission statements?
I think usually 1 to 2 sentences. Is that what you've come across, Dom, when thinking about that?
Well, that's what I had in mind. I can't say that I read many mission statements, but to me, a mission statement is something pretty, pretty clear. Like our goal is to do this, to get better at this. That's where we want to cover.
Yeah, we had that just recently in the department. It's basically a sentence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we want to model all geophysics, forward and inverse of geophysics. All the geophysics, or only non-seismic, or whatever we decide we want to cover. But I think if it's too broad, then people don't really know what it's all about, and we probably don't want to overlap too much with other packages. You don't want to compete with people either.
So there's a couple links, and there's lots of people who have put a lot of thought into how to write mission statements. So a what, a how, and a why are usually good components to be thinking about.
Yeah, so do we want to exclude seismic, or, you know, because there's obviously a ton of packages that do seismic, and we don't have any experience much in it, right?
Yeah.
So we could, you know, take it out.
That would come to the, yeah. Would it exclude GPR as well?
Do you need to get down to that level? I mean, we're operating here at a pretty high level for just computational geoscience, for simulation and inversion. I mean,
yeah,
you know, whether you're a different discipline or not at this level doesn't make much difference, I don't think. And especially if you're going to be limited to, let's say, 2 sentences.
Yeah, I don't think we need to specifically limit ourselves. I think the goal is like we just want to develop a modular, you know, modular system that works for whatever you want to plug into it, right? Like that's one of the goals, is to be modular with respect to the physical system.
Modular package for simulation and inversion of geophysical data.
Yeah. Because right, we develop all these tools we develop them all in a consistent manner that you can pick and choose what you want, and combine the modules together in certain ways. They all implement similar methods, similar things like that, similar APIs. They all kind of work in a similar manner. And the point is, you can just take one module here, okay, plug it in here, and get a result. You can take a different module, plug it into the same thing, and get a result. That's kind of our goals. Like today, at least from what I see, is to develop this modular framework that allows for the simulation and inversion
of all geophysics. Yeah. Well, eventually we would like to cover it all, right?
Maybe not all, but just say like developing towards like any, like I don't know. Like it's not like we're claiming to be able to simulate everything. We're just we're claiming, I don't know, I guess it's a difference of I don't know. Our goal is to support anything versus our goal is to implement everything. Like I think it's subtly different there, but I feel like the first one is more of our goals, right? Our goal is to support anything.
To me, that brings back some of the language of like the idea of SimPEG as a framework, is that our goal is that the framework is flexible, extensible, and supports a wide number of methods, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be on the hook for writing them all. Like it would be great if we can plug into other forward simulators for seismic, and we don't necessarily need to maintain that, but it's still within perhaps our mission to be able to interface to those. I captured some of that. So I've just done this in the document. We got the what, how. So I captured some of those pieces that you're discussing there.
What's your other question?
Why?
What, how, and why?
Yeah.
Do you mean composable and not compostable?
Yes, I do mean composable. Yes. Thank you, Joe. Very green. Yes. You can fix it.
So why, right? Why? Because
The why is that the educational aspect somehow.
Well, it's also to serve our own research as well. Mm-hmm. But so I agree, it's in there. I think there's both.
It's like there's education to support our own research and to support to support future researchers, right? Yeah. To make it easier for them.
it's capture the current state of of knowledge in a way, the technical advancements, like capture it and then standardize it in a way so that we can build further. It's hard, so it should be easier. Why?
Another way to maybe frame that is, what do we want to, or what does SimPEG change? Or what do we want SimPEG to change?
Right. I think collaboration, right? So if we have a standard set of tools, then we're making collaboration possible across institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Maintainable, expendable.
Thibaut put down reproducibility.
Yeah, reproducibility. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's always been in our speech,
it relates to more on the research and education side and the capture of knowledge for sure. Like. I'm just thinking in the why, like, well, it's already a lot, and like to fit that in 2 sentences well might be hard, but like almost all the points we put is also like related to our 75% academic audience. Is there any point related towards the 25% of other in industry? Or is that really comes as more like as a, not in the why, but like as a byproduct and support? I don't know. I'm just thinking out.
Support feature research is the golden nugget there, right? For non-academics, or even for academics too.
But I guess we could say that it makes it like we're trying to make it a little bit easier for people to use recent research. You know what I mean? Like, right? It's okay. We're trying to make joint version more tractable for anyone, kind of thing. It's like we're trying to make it easier for people to use the software. It's easier for
something around accelerated development, through collaboration.
Like maybe like faster it's almost like a faster turnaround of research code to actual like use code.
Applied,
yeah. So it certainly does, like all of these things contribute to that and allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's easy. Now you just have to condense it to 1 sentence.
Yeah, you have a lot of good words in there. Just put some auxiliary words off the string.
Put a lot of semicolons in there and dashes.
Dashes are good.
Well, I think it's always with things like this, it's easier to kind of like blast out, catch all the ideas, and then try and condense things down. Are there things we're missing?
I'm surprised we never wrote like open source or like made reference to that like directly. That's the fact that it's not licensed, that it's not.
Yeah, but I think I would maybe prefer the because what we saw, it's sometimes controversial. I think in this one phrase, I would probably focus on reproducibility. than open source, because even open source, as we know, can mean many different things.
Yeah.
Can be messy. You can have open code, but it's probably spaghetti.
Or maybe like transparency, something like that. We want to make it transparent what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. She has the reproducibility and transparency. I think these are the two we should focus more maybe in a one sentence.
Yeah.
Also, just the fact that that it's not a black box, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that could even be with a closed source when you can read the code. I mean, that's where it becomes messy. It can have a closed source license, but the code can still be visible, which would already be better than a black box where you cannot see the code. So
yeah. Yeah, and that's one sentence, and two, like the support research would have been an important element for me too, because this has a broad appeal of like on either side of academia or industry, and it was also like it's also what has been used a lot for since the beginning. Like it's been a crucial support tool for our like everybody's research, and it benefits from it at the and yeah, that's what drove the development also.
Yeah, community, like people, right? People are key in this. Access to expert in their field, in their respective field, without having to know everything, type of thing. I like it. I think that's the essence is mostly there. Can't think of anything else.
Well, do folks want to take a crack at just like putting a sentence in before the meeting next week? And like we can challenge everyone to do that. And if we all add one, we'll have quite a number to look at and see what elements we like and not. Yeah, for me, that's something that I need to like sit and think quietly. But
for sure. Yeah, we have a bank of words. That's good.
Exactly.
We agree on this bank. Yes,
Let's just train a machine learning algorithm off of it.
Exactly.
Oh man, yeah, I can't. Yeah, I want to see that.
Just auto suggest new sentences using these words.
It's a flexible expert.
Sure, you could write an inversion about it to minimize.
An open, flexible expert.
Awesome. Cool.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we have some next steps to go forward. So create some things on GitHub as sort of a first step. And Thibaut, if you don't mind also posting this on YouTube so that others who weren't able to join can jump in with their 2 cents too.
I was gonna ask you if you wanted that public, like visible in the channel, or if you just want it on YouTube and accessible only if you have the link. You can do.
I think you can make it public. I don't have any concerns with that. Does anybody else? Like all of the rest of our things, we're all over the internet anyways.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll do that. And you said you want to do we want to do a meeting next week, same time. Is that?
I think we could just bring this up at the weekly meeting and then handle things on GitHub for now. And then if there's other stuff that comes up, just make those agenda items. And if we need another dedicated meeting, we can kick something off. But I don't know, unless anyone else here feels like we need another dedicated meeting on this.
No, I think that's fine. Yeah.
So our current goal is to have a sentence by Wednesday then for the weekly meeting.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Happy
Yeah.
Easter Monday.
Likewise.
Stay
Thanks,
over,
Thanks, Ben,
stay
for setting
ice.
us up.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, guys.